How much money do English teachers in Japan actually make? Let's find out. My name is Upendo Naisparasa. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and I've been an English teacher in Japan for the past year and a half. And this is a question that I receive on numerous occasions. And the simple answer is you can make money, but it depends on what program you're on, what type of school you teach, but also money comes with a lot of work. That I must say. To make more money, it means you will work like a dog. You will work like a donkey. You will do the heavy lifting. Let's break it down.
My name is Upendo Naisparasa. I moved to Japan to teach English from Kenya. If you're interested, subscribe. You don't want to miss it. Come on, join the bandwagon.
How much you earn will be dependent on the type of school you teach, the kind of company. Is it a dispatch company? Is it an international school? Is it a conversation school? So all that factored in together with your experience and what qualifications you have are going to influence your salary at the end of every month. First, let's look at the different dynamics, what to expect. In Japan, I think the most popular programs are dispatch companies. Basically, these are companies that recruit teachers from overseas and they get contracts from local Board of Educations and then they send English teachers to them. And then we do have the JET program, which is almost similar to dispatch companies, but the difference is JET program is facilitated by the Japanese government and they do have host countries. I think currently they do have 50 countries. In Africa, I think only South Africa participates in the JET program. They were in Kenya in 2007, 2008, but I think that was the period of the post-election violence. Therefore, they left Kenya. So Kenyans currently are not able to apply for the JET program from Kenya. But you can always do a Google search to see if your country participates in the JET program. We also have international schools. International schools in Japan are quite, I don't know how many they are, but I do know that there are quite a lot. And then, sorry, I keep looking at my laptop. We also do have direct hires. This means you're already in Japan and the Board of Education has advertised for English teacher positions and then you apply, which means you are hired directly by the Board of Education. With dispatch companies, the Board of Education has given the responsibility to the dispatch company. Therefore, you are hired by the dispatch company. Your employer is the dispatch company, and your employer is employed by the Board of Education. I don't know if that makes sense. Lastly, we do have something called Eikaiwa. I think that's the Japanese version, Eikaiwa. But an Eikaiwa basically is a language school. There's people who have taken initiative to start their own schools where students, pay to be taught English. But mostly it's quite different because children or students or adults who go to Eikaiwas mostly do it after school. So the routine is not like the traditional school routine, morning to evening. Maybe they do have morning to evening programs for people who are not necessarily going to school, etc. But I realize that many of them, have teachers working on the weekend or in the evening after students have left their work. Now that that is out of the way, let us start with the salary breakdown. The JET program, in my opinion, is one of the best programs. So if your country does have the JET program, I would say start, with that route. But it is definitely very, very extremely competitive. The JET salary is between 280 to 350,000 yen. I think the salary increases by year. So your first year would be maybe 280,000, and then the next year it would be around 300. But you have to work for a minimum of 5 years. After that, you can't renew your contract. So there's that, and that's one of the best programs. So the first, like I said, the range is between 280 to 350,000 yen. The next way is dispatch companies. Dispatch companies are like Interac, Borderlink, Altia Central. I have done a video about where and how to apply to dispatch companies or to apply for teaching positions in Japan. You can go back and refer. And basically a dispatch company are, like I said, employed by the Board of Education. So they get contracts and then they provide teachers for the Board of Education. With dispatch companies, it varies. It depends with their reputation, how popular they are, how many contracts they are, and how big of a company they are. But mostly it's between 200 to 250,000 yen per month. This is not inclusive of transportation, obviously, but with transportation, it's a little bit higher because it's given depending on how much money you spend on transportation that month. But basically, expect to earn between 200 to 250,000. The most reputable companies will start with around 220 to 250. The smaller companies, mostly around 200,000, or depending on how many days you worked in a month. So some are stable, some are not. Next is international schools. I think with international schools, it depends with your qualifications as well. If you're just new into teaching, maybe taught in Japan for maybe a year or two, that would count. But if you have a degree in education, for example, or in English to be specific, or linguistics, it means that you might earn a lot more. If you have a master's degree, if you have a teacher's license, a teaching license, like in Kenya, the Teacher Service Commission, if you do have a TSC number or a TSC license, you have an upper hand when it comes to salary. For international schools, the salary is between 300,000 to 350,000 without bonuses, without the add-ons, Sometimes you might have like an allowance, a transportation allowance, a housing allowance, but the base salary is between 300 to 350,000. And like I said, it depends on your qualifications, which means if you do have higher qualifications, more experience, you have a better chance. And some schools also say, oh, you have to know a certain level of Japanese. It's not a must, but some say that across the board, not just international schools. And if you can speak a bit of Japanese, it also gives you an upper hand. The next one is direct hire. So direct hire, if you're hired directly by a board of education, expect to earn between 300,000 yen to 350,000 yen as well. They do have allowances, oh my God, here and there, which means that it could go higher. But with direct hire as well, in most cases, I have seen that they require a certain level of Japanese. If you're able to hold a basic conversation in Japanese, it's an advantage because some interviews are actually in Japanese. Surprisingly, they will just ask simple questions in Japanese, not advanced level, which means for you to get a position, you need to be able to speak Japanese to some extent. I don't know if this is a rule or a requirement across the board, but I do know that you need to speak a bit of Japanese. The last one is the language schools or the Eikaiwa. That word is so difficult for me to pronounce. Eikaiwa. Yeah, basically the language or conversational schools. Like I said, most of them have traction traction in the evening or during school holidays. That's when they do have lots of students. And I also know that sometimes it's on, how do I explain this? So sometimes if you're a great teacher, it means that you're able to bring in more students. Like the students would go home and say, hey, we have this cool teacher who teaches English. And if you're able to have many students in your class based on recommendation or word of mouth, you might earn a lot more. It almost sounds like on commission basis, but it's not. But they also have a flat fee of every day. Depends on what type of contract you have with them. But mostly it's around 250 to 300,000 yen, depending on how big and how many students they do have. And if you work like every day, are you full-time, are you part-time, all that depends. But I do know that with conversational schools, it's not your traditional school system. Therefore, you might earn more a certain month, some months you might not. And yeah, I guess I don't have any experience with conversational schools, so I don't know exactly how they work, but expect to earn between 200 to 250, did I say 250 to 300,000 yen? So all that being said, expect to earn a minimum of, let's just say 200,000 to 250, especially if you're coming with a dispatch company. And then once you're in Japan, you can scale, you can look for international schools, etc, and you'll be able to make money. But I realize that in Japan, for you to make a lot of money, you have to work a lot, especially with international schools. I've seen adverts that say starting time is like 8 and you leave work at 7, and I'm like, where's the work-life balance over there? But you see the salaries are really attractive. Or some even have very little holidays or rest time. It's all about work, work, work. So if you're really into making money, be ready to work. But if you just want a relaxed, casual work-life balance, I think working as an LT with dispatch companies or maybe direct hire is the better route for you. See you again next time, same place, same time.